Welcome to Hot Drama TV.
The moment it finally clicked. When Liu Yuning's romance became real. For a long time, Liu Yuning was an actor audiences respected, but rarely felt. He was solid, reliable, charismatic in his own restrained way. Yet when it came to romance, something always seemed just out of reach. The stories told us to believe in love, but our hearts hesitated. Until Prisoner of Beauty. This was the first time many viewers paused and thought, wait, this feels different. Not louder, not flashier, just real. Before Prisoner of Beauty, romance that never fully landed. Take the Long Ballad. Liu Yuning and Zhao Lucy fit perfectly into the familiar formula. The cold, guarded man and the warm, gentle girl. Their interactions were pleasant, even sweet. But when the drama ended, so did the feeling. The romance passed through without leaving a mark. Then came Story of Pearl Girl. This time, the script insisted on deep, unbreakable love. The characters declared it. The plot revolved around it. But something was missing. Even in the quiet moments, the looks, the pauses, the supposed emotional weight. It felt like watching two actors carefully perform love rather than two people experiencing it. The chemistry felt constructed, not organic. A Journey to Love was even more telling. The drama itself was strong, well-paced, emotionally layered, critically praised. Yet the romance between Liu Yuning and Liu Yuning felt strangely hollow. They were placed together, pushed together, and repeatedly reminded to sell the romance. And the more the drama tried to convince us, the flatter it felt. Like two people trying very hard to make something work because the script demanded it. And then, Prisoner of Beauty arrived. With Song Zuer, something changed. From their very first scenes, there was a quiet balance between Liu Yuning and Song Zuer. No one dominated the frame. No one overperformed. No one chased chemistry. They simply matched. Their connection wasn't built on dramatic declarations or exaggerated sparks. It grew through tension, restraint, and presence. Two people circling each other, watching, measuring, slowly realizing attraction was inevitable. The enemies to lovers arc didn't rush. If anything, many viewers wished it lasted longer, because the tension was that good. Their romance unfolded naturally, not because the story said now you're in love, but because every glance, every step closer, made it believable. Most striking was the physical chemistry, not explicit, not flashy but undeniable. A closeness that felt wanted, a pull that felt mutual. It didn't look like actors following choreography. It looked like two characters genuinely drawn to each other, unable to pretend otherwise. For the first time, Liu Yuning's romance didn't feel acted. It felt lived. When chemistry is one of a kind. Some pairings happen once in an actor's career. Bai Lu and Luo Yunqi are a perfect example. Their chemistry reached a level so rare that no later pairing could quite replicate it. Not because the actors lack talent, but because some connections are simply lightning in a bottle. For many viewers, Liu Yuning and Song Zuer are that pairing. Together they unlock something new. They softened each other's edges. They elevated each other's performances. Song Zuer brought out emotional depth and vulnerability in Liu Yuning that his previous romantic roles never fully accessed. And Liu Yuning, in turn, gave her a grounded, restrained intensity that made their love story feel mature and earned. When the drama ended, the feeling didn't disappear. It lingered. And that, more than ratings or trends, is the true mark of memorable chemistry. Why Prisoner of Beauty matters. Prisoner of Beauty didn't just succeed as a romance. It reframed how audiences see Liu Yuning as a romantic lead. It proved that chemistry isn't about tropes, screen time, or dramatic declarations. It's about timing, balance, and finding the right partner at the right moment. For Liu Yuning, that moment arrived with Song Zuer. And once you've seen it, it's impossible to forget. The aftertaste that refuses to fade. What makes Prisoner of Beauty linger is not a single kiss, not a dramatic confession, not even a perfectly written scene. It's the aftertaste. Days after finishing the drama, viewers find themselves replaying moments in their minds. Not because they were loud or sensational, but because they felt intimate. A hand lingering a second too long. A look held just a beat longer than necessary. Silence doing more work than dialogue ever could. This is where Liu Yuning's performance quietly transforms. In his previous romances, love often felt like an obligation of the plot. In Prisoner of Beauty, love felt like a risk. His character hesitates, observes, holds back, and when he finally leans in emotionally and physically, it feels earned, almost dangerous, as if stepping into love means exposing something he can't take back. Song Zuer meets him there, not as a passive recipient of affection, but as an equal force. She doesn't wait to be loved. She challenges, resists, and ultimately chooses. Their chemistry works because neither character exists to serve the other. They collide, clash, and slowly align. That balance is rare. Why this pairing changed everything. Romantic chemistry isn't something actors can manufacture at will. It's not about beauty, popularity, or even skill alone. It's about rhythm, two people instinctively understanding when to move closer and when to pull away. With Song Zuer, Liu Yuning finally found that rhythm. He doesn't overplay masculinity. He doesn't retreat into emotional distance. He allows softness to coexist with restraint. And in doing so, he becomes more than a safe romantic lead. He becomes compelling. That's why, for many viewers, no other Liu Yuning romance quite compares. Not because the others were failures, but because this one unlocked a version of him we hadn't fully seen before. The uncomfortable truth about chemistry. Here's the quiet truth fans don't always like to admit. Some actors can spend a lifetime chasing chemistry and only experience it once. That doesn't diminish their careers. It defines them. Just as Liu Yuning may never recreate what he had with Bai Lu, Liu Yuning may never again find a pairing that feels as instinctively right as this one. And that's okay, because when it happens even once, it leaves a permanent imprint on an actor's legacy. Prisoner of Beauty didn't just give us a convincing love story. It gave Liu Yuning a benchmark, a moment audiences will measure everything else against. And that's why it matters. Years from now, viewers may forget plot twists. They may debate rankings, billing, and statistics. But they'll remember how this romance felt. They'll remember the tension before the touch, the restraint before the confession, the sense that two characters weren't just written to fall in love, but wanted to. And maybe that's why Prisoner of Beauty hit so hard. Because for the first time, Liu Yuning's romance didn't ask us to believe. It simply let us feel. When love stops performing and starts existing, one of the most fascinating things about Prisoner of Beauty is that it never begs the audience to fall in love with the romance. It doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't rush the beats. It doesn't rely on dramatic music to tell you what to feel. Instead, it waits. And that waiting is where Liu Yuning finally thrives. In earlier dramas, his romantic characters often felt like they were aware of the camera. Even in emotional scenes, there was a sense of careful control, as if the performance was technically correct but emotionally guarded. In Prisoner of Beauty, that guard slowly comes down. Not all at once. Not obviously, but enough for us to notice. There's a moment, quiet, almost forgettable on paper, where his character simply watches Song Zuer's from across the room. No dialogue. No dramatic zoom. Just observation. And in that moment you can feel the shift. Not desire yet. Not love. But curiosity mixed with unease. The kind that says, this person matters and I don't know why. That's when romance stops being performed and starts existing. The power of restraint. What makes this pairing so effective is not intensity, but restraint. Modern C-dramas often confuse chemistry with excess. Intense staring, forced intimacy, constant declarations of devotion. Prisoner of Beauty does the opposite. It trusts silence. It trusts distance. It trusts the audience. Liu Yuning's character doesn't rush toward love, because doing so would mean surrendering control. Song Zuer's character doesn't soften easily, because she knows what vulnerability costs. Their attraction grows in the space between what is said and what is held back. And that space, that's where chemistry lives. Their physical closeness feels charged not because they touch often, but because when they do, it matters. A hand reaching out, then stopping. A step forward, then a pause. These micro-moments accumulate until the tension becomes almost unbearable. By the time they finally allow themselves to want each other, it feels inevitable. Why the enemies to lovers arc worked. Many viewers wish the enemies to lovers phase lasted longer, and that in itself is telling. It means the conflict was compelling. It means the tension was productive. It means the romance wasn't rushed. Their opposition never felt shallow or performative. It was rooted in pride, fear, and mistrust. And because the conflict was real, the resolution felt earned. When they finally choose each other, it doesn't feel like a plot requirement. Feels like a decision. This is where Liu Yuning's acting subtly levels up. He allows contradiction. Strength mixed with hesitation. Authority mixed with longing. He doesn't resolve his emotions neatly, and neither does the character. That messiness is precisely what makes him believable. A career turning point hidden in plain sight. Prisoner of Beauty may not be the loudest drama in Liu Yuning's career, but it might be the most important, because it reframes him. Before, audiences saw him as a capable actor who fit certain roles well. After this drama, they see someone who can carry emotional intimacy without force. Someone who understands that romance isn't about proving love, it's about allowing it. This shift doesn't come from better scripts alone. It comes from chemistry that unlocks new emotional access. Song Zuer doesn't overshadow him. She doesn't carry the romance for him. She meets him halfway, and that equality changes everything. For the first time, Liu Yuning isn't reacting to romance. He's participating in it. Why this romance will be hard to replicate. Here's the part many fans quietly fear. Once you've experienced this kind of chemistry, everything else feels slightly muted. Future pairings may be competent. Future dramas may be popular. But the emotional imprint remains. That's because some connections aren't replicable. They are the result of timing, personal growth, compatible instincts, and the right story at the right moment. You can't plan them. You can only recognize them when they happen, and when they're gone you feel the absence. That doesn't mean Liu Yuning's future romances will fail. It means Prisoner of Beauty set a standard that's difficult to match, especially because it never tried to. The quiet legacy of Prisoner of Beauty. In the end, what makes this drama unforgettable isn't spectacle. It's sincerity. It reminds us that the most powerful love stories aren't the ones that shout the loudest, but the ones that feel like they're happening, even when no one is watching. That's what Liu Yuning and Song Zuer gave us. Not perfection, not fantasy, but something rare in modern romance storytelling. Belief. And once an audience believes, they never quite let go.